Satellite images revealed the unthinkable. They revealed front loaders removing debris from underground tunnel entrances in Iran. They revealed excavators working in the northern region while the world believed the ceasefire was in effect. They revealed trucks being loaded near bases that should have been destroyed. They revealed that 77% of 107 tunnel entrances were bombed by attacks from the United States and Israel, yet half of the missile launchers remained intact. They revealed Iran is excavating arsenals that seemed lost. They revealed the ceasefire might be just a pause. They revealed nuclear material will not be destroyed. They revealed war could return at any moment. And now, before these images disappear from the internet, before this information gets removed, you will know the complete story. You will learn what is really happening in the Middle East. This documentation presents facts verified by international news agencies, by satellite images analyzed by CNN, by official statements from the Pentagon, by communications from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. No information here is speculation. No information here is conspiracy theory. Everything you will hear was reported by reliable sources, by journalists covering the conflict in real time, by authorities coordinating peace negotiations. What you will discover is disturbing. Iran is using the truce period to recover military capability. Iran is refusing to destroy its nuclear program. Iran is threatening war beyond the region if the United States attacks again, and the United States responds with their own threats, saying they have means to resume the conflict. This is the real story of the conflict between Iran and the United States in 2026. This is the story that will change your understanding of what is happening in the Middle East. Follow all 6 parts of this documentation before it disappears. February brought war to the Middle East. Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz, cutting off one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. Tankers carrying oil could not pass. Global commerce felt the immediate impact. The United States responded with naval blockades. Tensions escalated beyond what anyone predicted. For months, the region remained on the edge of complete conflict. Then came April 7th. A 15-day ceasefire was announced, mediated by Pakistan. The world breathed a sigh of relief. Diplomats celebrated the breakthrough. Television anchors spoke of peace returning to the region. But something was wrong from the beginning. Israel immediately stated the agreement did not include Lebanon. Iran accused Israel of violating the ceasefire with massive attacks. The United States and Iran began trading accusations within days. By early May, the truce was already in jeopardy. The Strait of Hormuz had closed again after being open for only a few hours. Iran bombed the United Arab Emirates. The United States and Iran exchanged aggression in the narrow waterway that controls global oil flow. This was not peace. This was merely a pause in the fighting. Late May brought new violence. American forces conducted fresh attacks against Iranian military installations. According to Reuters, the target was a military facility threatening American troops and traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian drones were shot down. The Revolutionary Guard claimed they attacked an American airbase in retaliation. Earlier, the United States had bombed a military installation that American authorities believed represented a threat to their country's troops and to commercial maritime traffic. The Pentagon confirmed what satellite images showed. Iran began excavating areas in the northern part of the country. Heavy machinery was visible near buried missile launchers. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, stated publicly that Iran started digging up launchers and missiles destroyed by bombs. He warned that they are excavating the remaining launchers and missiles. American intelligence is monitoring where the missiles are being moved. Negotiations continue without progress. Washington pressures Tehran for guarantees about the nuclear program. The opening of the Strait of Hormuz remains a key point in talks, but trust does not exist between the two nations. The ceasefire of 15 days hangs by a thread. Both sides prepare for the possibility that fighting will resume. The situation remains undefined. New attacks and disagreements over Lebanon put the truce at risk. What began as a hope for peace has transformed into uncertainty about whether any agreement can hold. The world watches as two powers position themselves for continued conflict while speaking of diplomacy. The ceasefire exists on paper, but on the ground, preparation for war continues unabated. This is the reality of the Middle East in 2026, a ceasefire that never truly began, a truce that everyone knows might end tomorrow, and two nations preparing for the war they claim to want to avoid. CNN analyzed satellite images that showed something alarming. Front loaders were removing debris from underground tunnel entrances. Heavy machinery operated near bases that should have remained destroyed. Trucks waited nearby, ready to transport what had been buried beneath the mountain. This was not reconstruction. This was recovery of military capability. The entrances had been specifically targeted. United States and Israel attacked the tunnel access points precisely to prevent access to the launchers inside. Investigation revealed that 77% of 107 tunnel entrances were bombed. The attacks were designed to bury the weapons underground, to make them inaccessible, to cripple Iran's missile capability permanently. At least 15 missile launchers were destroyed in the bases, but approximately half of Iran's missile launchers remained intact after 1 month of combat. Many launchers had been buried by the attacks at tunnel entrances. The debris blocked passageways. Now, during the ceasefire, Iran is clearing the debris. They are excavating the tunnels. They are recovering the weapons that seemed lost. Pete Hegseth confirmed what intelligence agencies had discovered. On April 16th, the Secretary of Defense stated publicly that Iran began digging up launchers destroyed by bombs. He said American armed forces noticed Iran is using the ceasefire to excavate areas in the northern part of the country. On that same Wednesday, American media showed satellite images with excavators and heavy machinery in the region. Hegseth warned that Iran is digging up the remaining launchers and missiles. He said American forces are monitoring where the missiles are being moved. The CIA assessment revealed something disturbing. Despite the intense bombing campaign, Iran retained approximately 50% of its missile launch capacity. The underground facilities proved more resilient than expected. The entrances were destroyed, but the launchers inside remained functional. Now they are being recovered, one by one, as heavy machinery clears the debris. This development changes everything. A ceasefire is supposed to reduce military capability, to freeze the conflict, to create space for negotiations. Instead, Iran is using the pause to rebuild what was damaged. The weapons that were buried are emerging again. The launchers that were thought destroyed are being prepared for deployment. The missiles that seemed lost are being returned to service. American intelligence monitors every movement. They watch the excavators. They track the trucks. They follow the missiles as they emerge from underground. But what can they do? The ceasefire is technically in effect. Open attacks would violate the truce. Yet the recovery of weapon systems continues unabated beneath the watchful eyes of American surveillance. This is the paradox of modern warfare. Ceasefires create opportunities for both sides to prepare. Diplomatic negotiations provide cover for military recovery. The world sees peace while armies rebuild. The satellite images reveal what politicians do not say. Iran is not disarming. Iran is not giving up its capability. Iran is recovering its arsenals while the world watches and waits. The question becomes not whether Iran is violating the ceasefire, but whether they can. The agreement does not explicitly prohibit excavation. It does not forbid removing debris from damaged facilities. It does not ban recovery of intact weapons. So, Iran proceeds, legally exploiting the loopholes, while the United States watches with growing frustration. This is the reality of the secret arsenal being excavated, weapons emerging from underground, launchers being prepared for deployment, missiles returning to service, all while the world believes the conflict is paused, all while diplomats speak of peace, all while the ceasefire hangs by a thread that grows thinner with each passing day. On May 29th, sources cited by the Fars news agency revealed something that shattered what remained of diplomatic optimism. Iran had not accepted destroying its nuclear material. The announcement came quietly, buried beneath headlines about missile excavations and ceasefire violations, but its implications were enormous. The core demand of the United States, the central condition for any permanent peace agreement, had been flatly rejected. The contradiction runs deep. Back in February, a mediator from Oman had stated publicly that Iran agreed to never store nuclear material. That declaration gave the world a reason for cautious hope. Diplomats pointed to it as evidence that negotiations could succeed. American officials referenced it as a foundation for building a lasting agreement. Then came the Fars agency sources, and the foundation crumbled. Iran is not willing to destroy what it has already built. The distinction matters enormously. There is a significant difference between agreeing never to accumulate more material in the future and agreeing to eliminate what already exists today. Tehran accepted the first condition while rejecting the second entirely. Washington needs both. Without destruction of existing material, the nuclear threat remains alive, capable, and ready. The United States has been clear about its demands. Guarantees about the nuclear program represent a non-negotiable condition for any permanent peace deal. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth reinforced this position on May 30th, stating that Washington expects its red lines to be respected. Those red lines include the nuclear question. They include the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. They include verifiable guarantees, not promises, not words, not diplomatic assurances that can be withdrawn tomorrow. That last point carries particular weight considering what the chief Iranian negotiator said. Mohammad Qalibaf, president of the Iranian parliament and the leading figure in Tehran's diplomatic effort, spoke directly about trust. He said his country does not trust guarantees or words, only actions. He said no action will be taken before the other side acts first. He said the winner of any agreement is whoever best prepares for war starting the day after signing. This is the man responsible for negotiating peace, and he is already thinking about the next war. The nuclear impasse creates a dangerous deadlock. Iran possesses material it will not destroy. The United States demands destruction it cannot verify is happening. Negotiations in Islamabad, described as the highest-level talks between the two nations since the Iranian Revolution of 1979, ended without a common agreement. Iran presented 168 constructive proposals, according to Qalibaf himself, yet the Americans did not earn Iranian trust. The situation reveals something important about how Tehran views this conflict. Iran does not see the nuclear program as a bargaining chip to be surrendered. It sees nuclear capability as the ultimate guarantee of national survival. It sees the bomb, or the capacity to build one, as the only thing preventing the United States from doing to Iran what it has done to other nations throughout history. Destroying that material would mean surrendering the one weapon that forces Washington to negotiate rather than dictate, so the nuclear material remains. The excavated missiles return to their launchers. The Strait of Hormuz stays closed. And across the table, two nations speak of peace while preparing for everything except peace. The ceasefire exists in name only. The real war, the one fought with ultimatums and red lines and buried arsenals, never stopped. They do not speak softly. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has never been an organization that chooses diplomatic language when military language is available. And in the final days of May 2026, they chose their words with deliberate precision. If aggression against Iran is repeated, the promised regional war will this time extend far beyond the region, and our devastating blows will crush them. Not a warning, not a caution. An ultimatum delivered to the most powerful military force on Earth. The context behind those words matters. On May 26th, American forces conducted new strikes against Iranian military installations. According to Reuters, the target was a facility threatening American troops and commercial traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. Drones were shot down. Military infrastructure was destroyed. Washington described the operation as a defensive measure, a necessary response to Iranian provocations endangering both soldiers and global shipping lanes. Tehran saw it differently. The Revolutionary Guard announced they had attacked an American airbase in direct retaliation. They described the response as a serious warning, a message to make the enemy understand that aggression will not go unanswered. Then came the final statement that left no room for misinterpretation. In case of repetition, our response will be even more decisive. This exchange of attacks happened during an active ceasefire. Both sides claim the other violated the truce first. Both sides accuse the other of provocation. Both sides present themselves as acting defensively while escalating aggressively. The narrative war between Washington and Tehran runs parallel to the military one, each side constructing a version of events designed to justify whatever comes next. What comes next is what everyone fears. The Revolutionary Guard has expanded its threat beyond the immediate region. They are no longer speaking only about the Strait of Hormuz, only about Iranian territory, only about the Middle East. They are speaking about a conflict that could spread across continents, that could strike American interests far from the Persian Gulf, that could draw in allies and proxies across multiple theaters of war simultaneously. American intelligence takes these threats seriously. The Guard is not a conventional military force making conventional military calculations. It operates through networks extending across Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. It has allies capable of striking targets throughout the region and beyond. When they say the war will extend beyond the region, they have the capacity to make that promise real. Pete Hegseth responded to the escalating rhetoric on May 30th. He stated that the United States is more than capable of resuming war if necessary. He added that Washington expects its red lines to be respected. Behind those measured words lies an enormous military apparatus that has already demonstrated its willingness to strike deep inside Iranian territory, to bomb underground facilities, to destroy missile launchers buried beneath mountains. Two forces, each convinced of its own righteousness, each armed with devastating capability, each speaking simultaneously of peace and war. The Revolutionary Guard excavates tunnels to recover missiles while threatening global conflict. The Pentagon monitors every movement while warning that resumption is an option. Diplomats negotiate in Islamabad while soldiers prepare for the next strike. April brought a ceasefire that barely survived its first week. May brought new attacks, new retaliation, and new ultimatums. Now the world waits for June. The question is no longer whether the ceasefire will hold. The question is what will replace it when it finally collapses. And judging by the words coming from both Tehran and Washington, nobody in power is genuinely betting on peace. 3 points of conflict define everything. 3 irreconcilable demands separate two nations from any lasting agreement. The nuclear program that Iran refuses to destroy, the Strait of Hormuz that remains effectively closed since February, and the question of Lebanon, which Israel insists is excluded from the ceasefire while Iran and its allies insist otherwise. Remove any one of these obstacles and peace becomes possible. Keep all 3 in place and war becomes inevitable. Mohammad Qalibaf understood this before anyone admitted it publicly. The chief Iranian negotiator spoke with the kind of clarity that diplomats usually avoid. He told the world that his country presented 168 constructive proposals during the negotiations in Islamabad. He told the world that the talks represented the highest level engagement between Iran and the United States since the Islamic Revolution. He told the world that concessions made by Washington were obtained through Iranian military power, not through dialogue. And then he delivered the line that rendered every other statement irrelevant. The winner of any agreement is whoever best prepares for war starting the day after signing. Peace talks, in his view, are preparation for the next war. Negotiations are tactical pauses. Ceasefires are windows of opportunity to excavate tunnels, recover missiles, and rebuild what the bombs destroyed. Every day of diplomatic engagement is another day Iran uses to strengthen its position for whatever comes after the agreement collapses. This is not cynicism. This is strategy, openly declared, deliberately communicated, impossible to misread. Washington heard every word. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth responded on May 30th with language equally unambiguous. The United States is more than capable of resuming war if necessary. Behind that sentence stands an entire military apparatus already proven willing to strike deep inside Iranian territory, to bomb underground facilities, to destroy infrastructure buried beneath mountains. The operation called Project Liberty eliminated 6 Iranian vessels, cruise missiles, and multiple drones in a single engagement. The capability is not in question. What is in question is the will to use it again. American public opinion watches a war fought in a distant region over shipping lanes and nuclear programs that feel abstract until oil prices rise and supply chains break. The political cost of escalation is real. The economic cost of a fully closed Strait of Hormuz is devastating. Approximately 20% of global oil passes through that narrow waterway. Every day it remains contested. Markets feel the pressure. Iran calculated this from the beginning. The strait is not just a geographic feature. It is leverage. It is the instrument that forces the world to care about a conflict it might otherwise ignore. Close the strait, and the entire planet has a stake in the outcome. Keep it closed, and the pressure on Washington to negotiate grows daily. Open it only as part of an agreement that guarantees Iranian survival, and suddenly Tehran holds a card that no missile program, no matter how large, could ever provide alone. So here we stand in June of 2026. Missiles emerging from excavated tunnels, nuclear material secured and untouched, the Strait of Hormuz contested and dangerous, a ceasefire violated by both sides and acknowledged by neither, threats of regional war expanding beyond the Middle East, two nations speaking of peace while preparing for everything except peace. The documentary record is complete. The satellite images exist. The declarations are on record. The threats have been made and the responses have been delivered. What happens next will not be decided in Islamabad or Washington or Tehran. It will be decided on the ground, in the tunnels where missiles are being recovered, in the waters where ships dare not pass, and in the silence between two powers who have run out of words and are reaching for something far more dangerous. History is watching. The world is waiting. and nobody is genuinely ready for what comes next.